How did the job go with Wall Street, the very first job?
No, I learned a lot. My study at NYU was marketing. But again, I had to do something relating with arts. And I could not go into finance or accounting, but on Wall Street I was learning finance. I understood and learned on the job. And in a year later, a new sort of a firm was being established by the Rothschilds. The European Rothschilds had established a firm called New Court Securities. And somehow my name must have come up where they were putting together a group of about 20 people, professionals, and they asked me to join, and I was the youngest, and in fact, many of the CEO of that company studied at Princeton. And in fact, now, after 40 years later, almost, he's now on the board of Ethan Allen, my first CEO, because I learned a lot from him. He was my teacher. He was really a role model for me.
And today he's on your board.
I invited him to join our board.
Did you face a lot of discrimination in the 60s in America?
No, I was not seeing it. But a lot of times, you create your own problems. You believe that you are being discriminated and it becomes a vicious cycle. I never believed anybody was. Maybe they were, but I never noticed it. And in fact, the interesting thing is that when you start thinking that you're different, the people you're interacting with also think you're different.
So now you have graduated from Wall Street also, let's say, right? What comes
I did,
next?
But you see, actually, when I was also that became my Ethan Allen connection, but when I was working in that printing press, my grandfather, who was involved with arts and crafts and other things, on his own decided one day to send me 12 baskets, wicker baskets of Kashmiri arts and crafts.
No prior conversation, nothing.
Just send me a letter saying it's coming. And this time I was living in a studio apartment in Brooklyn. And he said, sell these products and send us the money. So that was my indoctrination to business. And now I had to decide what to do with it.
What was it? What did you get?
Well, I had some paper mache, wood carving, some small pieces of metal jewelry.
Handicrafts, really.
All on arts, yes. And Kashmir is famous for those things. So first thing I did was, I was still at that printing press, so I printed a called Kashmir Products Limited. That became my business, of course.
From your studio apartment.
Right, and of course, now to keep the products, now these 6 baskets were big wicker baskets. Now I had no space, but one of my neighbors had buildings, you might call in one of them the worst areas of New York at that time. At that time, the Williamsburg section of Brooklyn was pretty toughest neighborhood. So it's almost like he was like what today would be called a slum landlord.
Wow.
So Mark was his name. I said, Mark, I need some space. And if you allow me to keep them there, I'll give you 5% of sales. Now, of course, I had no insurance. I was praying that nobody would steal it. And nobody did, nobody stole. But going there to that warehouse every time was risking your life. However, that was my warehouse. And I went around New York trying to sell the products, and of course, people would, and I wanted to place orders, actually, that was the objective, of course. Initially, I did not. I placed them on small gift stores on consignment. Saturdays, I had to go around to check if they had sold it, because if they had sold it, then I would get the money, otherwise they would never tell you. But finally, I did get a break, and I got Bloomingdale's as my first customer.
How did you even get an appointment with Bloomingdale's?
I called them up. You find out who's who, just go in and see him. And this buyer liked me and placed an order for, I think, $20,000, which was a pretty big amount. And then I got an order from the United Nations gift shop. So those were 2 big customers. And so the business started growing. And when I joined this investment firm at New Court Securities, one of my associates knew the chairman of Ethan Allen. So he said, I'll introduce you to him because these products look nice. So he did, and he asked me, the chairman of Ethan Allen at that time was Nat Ansel, was one of the co-founders. And he asked one of his designers, merchants, to come in and said, this young man is from Kashmir, do we get anything from there? They said, yes, we get this fabric, it's cruel fabric, but never comes on time, and the quality is always a problem. Now, I had not much, I must have noticed that fabric, but I had no idea what that fabric was, where it came from. So he asked me, he said, do you think you can help us? I said, of course. And that started my association with Ethan Allen. Of course, there's a lot of hurdles, but Ethan Allen became a customer in fabrics. And later on, of course, I had to go back many years later to Kashmir to really set up. At one time, we had about 5,000 people working on this craft.
Wow.
Yeah, so I used to go every 3 or 4 months in the 70s. Now, that's a little bit later, but this Ethan Allen Association started when I was still on Wall Street. So it was actually in 1973, 3 years later, this Nat and Sal asked me to join Ethan Allen as one of the merchants. He said, you're a good merchant. Why are you working on Wall Street? So I looked at him and I said, how about a partnership? He said, what do you mean a partnership? I said, I will give up my job. But now I had become, at the age of 26, without studying finance, chief financial officer, vice president, chief financial officer of the Rothschilds. So I had, been fortunate.
But your undergrad was in English literature, not in accounting.
It was English literature and political science, and my graduate work was in marketing.
Marketing.
Yes. But I learned. I was working on Wall Street. At that time, Ethan Allen was a very well-regarded American institution. It made furniture, wooden furniture, upholstered furniture, sold it to the Ethan Allen independent dealers who purchased other products for the home like lighting, textiles, rugs from outside. Mm-hmm. So my proposal was that this company that we will set up, and they'll make an investment in Kashmir Products Limited, would do these things for Ethan Allen, and this company would be a joint venture between Ethan Allen and myself, and we'll develop the products for them.
He accepted it?
And he agreed. So I gave up my job. We changed the name of this company, and I did, to KEA International. It was Kathwari Ethan Allen, even at that time. So a little presumptuous. And I rented near my home at that time. We had moved to a suburb of New York. I rented a bowling lanes to set up a first factory and a distribution center for lighting, accessories, textiles. So that's how my association with Ethan Allen started.
How did grandfather and your family feel about this kid who went in with no business experience, playing cricket, and now he has established this whole business out there?
Well, my grandfather was the one who thought that I would be a forest ranger. So when he would come here, and he would be very proud of the fact that I would take him around. Now just think of this also, which is not possible today for young people. I was working in a printing company, printing envelopes. That's what it was called, the Imperial Envelope Company.
That's all they did?
Print envelopes.
Print envelopes.
And I think I started by, $70 a week. That was my pay. But in about 6 months, they took it to $130. And when I went to work on Wall Street, a little bit more. But in 1966, I was able, with this money that I was earning, to live by myself in a studio apartment, pay all my fees at NYU, and even buy a car. I bought a Mustang, a new Mustang.
Really? I'm envious now.
Right, I did. And my children now say, why did I sell it? Because it's a classic. But think of this. Look at the problems of our children today. Can't they think of today going to college and working in a print shop and making enough money and to go to New York University or Princeton or Harvard or wherever? Not possible.
No. What do you attribute it to? Why were you able to do it at that time?
Well, of course, at that time, the cost of education was different. The cost of living was different.
It was still relative, though. In those days, they must have thought NYU is expensive.
No, it was, but I think that relationships have changed completely. Mm-hmm. And also, I think I was willing also to live in a small little place in Brooklyn.
You live within your means.
I lived within our means, but certainly the cost of education today is monumental.
Yeah.
The relationship is completely gone.